Welcome back to another episode of the Many Faces of Cancer podcast. I am your host, Melissa Grosboll, and joining me today is Hayley Dubin. And Hayley is a certified health coach, metabolic terrain advocate, and founder of Revive Wellness. She's also host of the Cancer Liberation Project podcast. As a 28-year ovarian cancer survivor, yay, her passion is to help people overcome the physical, mental, and emotional challenges that the cancer journey can bring. Her focus is with individuals that have completed treatment for cancer, as well as those with a strong family history. She helps her clients let go of the fear and take control of their health so that they can feel confident in their ability to heal. So welcome to the show, Hayley.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. What a great bio. And I can't wait to just dive into all of these things because this is something in many ways that is not frequently addressed. When we talk about cancer, we talk about the physical effects of cancer and the treatments and recovery from those treatments. But so often the mental and emotional piece kind of gets put by the wayside and people tend to think it's not as important as dealing with the physical effects. And I don't know of your experience, but to me, I think the mental and emotional piece is even bigger.
Yes.
Because it's more longstanding, I believe. I don't know about you.
Exactly. It's more difficult. And our bodies are so smart. I mean, when we're, in a bad mental state, our bodies know that, our cells know that. So it's hard to heal when we have all these past traumas and things we don't address.
Right. Absolutely. And we are going to dive into all of that. I am so excited. But first, tell me where do you hail from? Where are you living?
So I live in Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised. Yes, I met my husband in high school and we got married. We've been married 33 years. Still live
Congratulations.
in the same community that we've always lived
Wow.
in. So we haven't gone very far.
Isn't that kind of a Midwest kind of thing? People tend to just stay in their general areas.
Yes, it does seem like that. It does
Yeah.
seem like that. Yes.
Wow. Well, you're similar to mine. My husband and I met in high school, but we couldn't stand each other when we first met. So people say, "Oh, high school sweethearts." No, no, not at all. We ran in the same circle, but we did not get along at all. We did not start dating until college, but we will this summer be married 33 years. So
Amazing. I love it.
I love it too. And we've been all over the place. We definitely do not live in the same community that we grew up in. So.
Yeah, I think there's something nice about that. It's more adventurous.
Yeah, but you kind of lose some of that family piece, when family tends to be all over the place versus nobody ever really leaving. Like I was born in Pennsylvania, in a very small town in Pennsylvania, and people that I went to elementary school with before I moved, they still live there. They live a block away from their parents or their childhood home. And, generation after generation, just all kind of stay in the same area. And it's something that I never got to experience, but we all have our ways of living our lives, I guess.
Absolutely.
Do you still live close to your parents?
Still, my dad passed away a couple years ago suddenly, and my mom is still here. Yeah, so she's very close.
That's awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, well, let's get started. Let's dive into congratulations on 28 years as a survivor. That is just absolutely incredible.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's so hard to believe when I think of all those years ago because it doesn't seem that far away, because you just remember really everything. And it's just hard to believe that it's been that long.
Wow, it's not like pregnancy where you forget after a while and want to do it again.
Yeah, exactly. No, definitely don't want to do it again. But,
No, absolutely. I'm just hoping for the forgetting piece
right.
after that long.
Exactly. No, but it gets easier and it's not in the forefront of your mind all the time.
Right. All right. Well, take us back there. What was kind of going on in your life, and tell us a little bit about how you were diagnosed and the circumstances around that.
Yeah, well, like I said, it was 28 years ago, and I found out I had a large mass on my ovary. And at the time, I was 29 years old with a 2-year-old, and I was burning the candle at both ends. I was trying to balance career and motherhood and marriage. And, I just felt completely stressed out. And so what happened was I was playing tennis actually with my mom and my sister and someone else, and I was having horrible pain. And just like it got worse the next day. I even told my friend, and I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, it's probably gas. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think I've ever had gas like this before. And I could barely tie my shoe. And then he took, I went home. I did not take the gas pills that he gave me. And I went back the next day saying it's even worse. And he said, you should go to the emergency room, that it's probably your appendix. And they did test after test, and a resident doctor felt something, and they said that I need to talk to my GYN the next day. And so I went in, and there was an oncologist there, a GYN oncologist. And, they didn't know anything, or maybe they did. They didn't tell me. They wouldn't know until I go in for surgery. So all I remember, I had surgery like a week later, and I remember vividly waking up in the recovery room to my husband's face, and he was just staring at me. And he said, you have to survive. So that's when I found out, when I came to, really not right then, but when I came to, that I had stage 3 ovarian cancer.
So, wow. So
Yeah.
you had no idea what anything was until after surgery. So you're just going in going, okay, what, I don't know what's going on, but just get rid of it, right?
Exactly. And they made me look at a video about having a hysterectomy just in case. And I'm thinking, there's no way I'm going to need a hysterectomy. And we were trying to have a second child at the time. And I'm really an optimistic person. I was nervous. I was definitely scared because they didn't sound so hopeful, but I thought there's no way. I lead a healthy lifestyle. I'm sure you hear so many people say that. But I knew that I was completely out of balance and stressed out. But it did spread to my colon as well as my appendix.
Mm. And that was the
So,
pain you were experiencing, probably?
well, because it was pressing, exactly. It was probably like grapefruit size,
Oh
and it
my
was pressing on
gosh.
my other side. So it was pressing on, the other ovary. So
Okay.
yeah, it was a mess. But so afterwards they told me you're going to need chemotherapy and a total hysterectomy. And I ended up having 2 surgeries because they knew I was trying to have kids. And even though I signed something saying they could give me that total hysterectomy, they wanted to give me the choice just to take out my ovary and not everything. But they're saying I'll have a much better survival rate if I take everything out. So 3 days later, I have another surgery.
Oh my
So that
gosh.
was absolutely crazy because I was in such pain.
Was there any talk at that point about fertility preservation or anything? Because you said you were trying to have another kid. Did they even talk to you or do anything about that, especially if they were going to take everything?
That
Or
is
was it too late at that point?
That's such a good question. No, we did talk about that. I mentioned it beforehand, if I had to have this, can I preserve the eggs? And they did not have the technology at the time.
Okay.
So I think it happened so soon after. And, that was very difficult to grapple with. It just reminds me, like, you think, okay, you're going through the chemo and how bad that is, and you don't have hair, and people feel bad and all this. But I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can no longer bear children. But yet there was this guilt because I already had one healthy child. And I'm like, I should just be grateful that, they got it. I'm going to be okay. They were telling me I'm going to be okay if I do the chemotherapy and all that. And, but that was very tough, the grief part of it, just feeling like I don't have my femininity, just a part of my femininity was gone. So that was an interesting part of it that I never, even thought of.
Well, and there's also we don't think about being able to feel both. You can be very grateful for the child that you have and grieve the loss of the ability to have more. And we tend to think it's an either or, and it's like, oh, well, I should be grateful and not grieve. Why can't you do both?
So, so true. Right. And yeah, I think people feel guilty because, okay, you're going to be okay. So you don't want to feel those feelings, but it's so, so important because they'll fester, and it's important to tell your family, like, look, this is really difficult for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that probably just compounds the emotional turmoil that you're going through because you don't feel like you can feel those feelings. So we end up stuffing them down even farther. And hopefully everybody knows what happens the more you stuff down emotions. They're going to come out in some way, and maybe not necessarily a totally appropriate way.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now,
And
is that kind of
oh,
where what led you into, what you're doing today? Or was there a lot of steps in between?
well, basically after the 3 months of chemotherapy, they declared me cancer free. And I knew I should have felt relieved, but I felt more scared than ever. And I hear this from so many people now. Back then, I had no idea like that was normal. I just felt so uneasy about what my next step should be. You know, how do I avoid ever going through this again? And I asked the oncologist all kinds of questions, just like, is there a certain diet I can eat? Are there any support groups I can go to? Zero support groups because he told me that all the people that have ovarian cancer that are at this hospital are older and they're not doing well and it just would not be the right fit for you. And I do understand that, but it was like, okay, what do I do with all this? Like, they're just telling me I'm cancer free. Okay, what now?
And
So,
that was back before the days of Facebook support groups and
yeah,
things like
so
that too.
true. Exactly. I mean, 1998, there was, barely the internet, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, I just started to look inward and I knew that I had to start taking control over my own health. I could not rely on my doctor to check me every 3 months to see if I was healthy. So I just knew in my heart that I needed to change my lifestyle. Like I told you before, was burning the candle at both ends. I just felt so out of balance. I mean, I even remember saying to my husband, if something doesn't change, I'm going to get sick. And it's like, oh, be careful what you say, right? I was working a very stressful job at the time, and my son was young, and I was having someone take care of him while I was working. And it just, I didn't feel my life was in harmony at all.
Okay.
So, basically, thank goodness with my husband's support, I decided to quit my job and stay home with my son. And, I just began to read and research, foods and lifestyle habits and mindsets that would, hopefully help me remain healthy going forward.
How many
And
people actually do that after a cancer diagnosis, right?
gosh,
What do
it's
I need to
so
do to keep it from coming back?
you're right. I mean, and I know that's not common because a lot of people just want to forget about it. Like they went through so much. And I understand it. I understand just wanting, like, okay, I did what I have to do and now I want to go back to my normal life. But there was something intuitive in me just saying, you have to change your life. Like you can't be the same person you were and stay healthy. I knew it wasn't working for me.
So where'd you go?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's so funny because I remember like going to the bookstore and looking at books and Dr. Weil at the time, he was all into the anti-inflammatory diet. And I remember picking up this book and it was like 8 weeks to optimal health or something like that. And I just read it cover to cover and I was trying to eat, like salmon and walnuts and like anything that he was saying was anti-inflammatory. So I definitely started with the diet because I felt like, okay, that's something I can control. That's something I can do, what I eat 3 times a day, you know. But I just realized that like I had to bring more joy into my life, that I wasn't present in my life at all. Like here I had this amazing 2-year-old son and I was so worried about getting to work and then getting home and doing everything and being the mom, being the wife. And I wasn't just taking care of my own needs at all. And I know, like, I think about that so much with younger people today because they're working and they have kids and the pricing is so high right now. They can't afford, a lot of them can't afford daycare. And I just feel for people because I know at that age, I know that's when I was the most stressed out. I don't know if everyone, was like me, but I just knew in my heart that this probably happened because of my high stress levels.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and stress is a major contributor to not only cancer, but almost every disease process out there. So that in many ways, that should kind of be the first step more than anything is to try and lower your stress levels,
Mm, so
which is so much easier
true.
said than done, right?
Oh, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It is. And, I wanted to mention, because I don't want to forget about this. And, you know, like I said, I was grieving the fact that we couldn't have another child. And this story is still amazes me to this day. So my husband's best friend's mother worked at an adoption agency. And I, talked to my husband about it. And right away, we're thinking, okay, we want to adopt another child. And, we got the okay from my doctors that I had a very rare form of ovarian cancer called germ cell. And it was pretty treatable with chemotherapy. And I know what a lot aren't, you have to do so many other things. And that's why I I got so into studying other things like, to help others avoid having a recurrence if they can. We're not God and we don't know what's going to happen. But I always feel like when you take your power back when it comes to your health, that you'll just live with less fear.
Mhm.
And so going back to that story, I called this woman and she said, oh, it's going to be very hard to find a domestic child, if that's what you want. And we preferred that only because we had our biological son and we wanted it to be as easy for this other child. And this was in February. It is Mother's Day. Fast forward to Mother's Day, and we're having dinner. We get home from dinner, and there is a call on, my answering machine, and it was my husband's friend's mom. And she said, basically, that I know someone who knows someone whose child is having a baby, and they're very young and they cannot take care of this child. Do you want to adopt this child? And I mean, right away, it was yes, yes, yes. And a year later, after my cancer diagnosis, we brought a baby boy home. And it was
Yay.
just the most incredible thing.
Aw.
It just, like I felt like my family was complete. So that was just an amazing, amazing thing that happened with all
Oh,
of this.
congratulations. That's you got to go through the grieving process and then still get that completion of your family in the end anyway. That's fantastic.
Yes. Well, thank you so much.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Hmm.
All right. So, how about, you became a health coach. I'm assuming it was kind of through this whole process and the things that you did for yourself to improve your health that you at that point wanted to offer to other people as well.
You're absolutely right. You know, I because I was taking such a good hard look at my life and I was feeling really great, my energy was coming back. I mean, my energy came back within like a few months, but I didn't go decide to be a health coach right away. It was years later. I knew I wanted more in my life. I knew I wanted to help others. That I wanted to go back to work, but not what I was doing before. And I just thought this was a perfect way. And I decided to go to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition to become a certified health coach. And then later, I started working with cancer survivors because I realized I want to work with people like me, that are scared and don't know what to do. And I just felt like I can really help them and guide them, to be as healthy as they can.
And with your clients, as we talked about before, do you tend to help them more with the physical, or is the mental and emotional a bigger piece that they need more support around?
Yes, it's such a good question. It's funny because they always want to focus on diet. Like,
Sure.
and you probably hear that all the time too. Like, what should I eat? What should I do? And I do understand it because I was the same way because I was thinking, okay, that's something I can have control over.
Mhm.
But there's not one diet that is going to heal heal you or make you cancer free. Everyone, what's best for one is not always best for another. So I really work with people to figure out what works best for them. And the emotional part of this whole thing, to me, it is number one. I think, I mean, who doesn't have past trauma? I mean, even if you don't think you really do, like you grew up in this great family, who knows, you could have been bullied, or something could have really, really bothered you or set you back, and you didn't even really think about it.
Mhm.
So yes, to me, that is number one. And I think a lot of integrative practices, they don't really touch on. I mean, they're starting to. I shouldn't say, like, I interview a lot of practitioners who are starting to do this, it just makes me so happy
Yeah.
because, one, people don't want to make the changes. They're not motivated to make the changes when they have all this emotional baggage.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I was first diagnosed, and obviously diet was the first thing I wanted to change, and I was so frustrated because every website that you go to is going to tell you something different. oh, you should have raw diet, raw fruits and vegetables, juice all the time. Oh no, you should do keto. Oh no, here's the anti-inflammatory diet. Oh no, this is carnivore diet. And I mean, it was so frustrating because I'm like, just somebody tell me what to eat to keep this from happening again. And there is no one size. And get so frustrated when I see influencers and people who make a living working with cancer patients, which is perfectly understandable. But to say all you have to do is this and your cancer will never come back. And it's
Mm.
like, you cannot guarantee that. And don't tell people that, because some people may not function well on an all raw fruits and vegetables diet. They need protein in their lives, you know?
Yes, yes, and especially if
But
you're in a
it's so
cold climate,
frustrating to try
you
and do it
know?
alone. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. And so you've been doing this for several years now. Yes.
I've been doing it for like 13 years,
Wow,
which I
that's
cannot even
fantastic.
believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And then how did you get into the podcast?
Yeah, so I was actually with a client and she said to me, "You'd really be good at a podcast." Like I think maybe it was something because I have a calm voice. I don't know exactly what it was, but before she said that, I was thinking about it, that I would love to interview practitioners who are thinking outside the box to heal cancer or to help heal cancer, and survivors who have a great story to tell and are inspiring others. And so I started it in March of 21. I interviewed a bunch of people and it went live in July of 21 and I'm still doing it. Which,
Wow, so that's like
yeah,
almost 5 years at this point. That's awesome.
exactly. And I
What
know
I get to
you and
look
yours,
forward to, right?
isn't that true? And like what you and I talked about, it just fills us up. I mean, you talk to these people that are so resilient and are just out there to help others. And oh, it's so inspiring. My heart's always so full after I hang up with someone.
Now you interview both survivors and then practitioners as well. So you kind of work on both sides. I tend to stay in the survivor caregiver area. So tell me like one survivor story that really stands out to you, somebody that you interviewed, and why.
Mm, that's such a good question. So I'm trying to think of his name right now. Like, oh my gosh, I want to get back to you on his name because I can't think of it. But oh, he had so many things going on. His son committed suicide. He had pancreatic cancer. And he was telling me how he was bullied as a child. And this guy, he's like a big guy, a tough looking guy, you know. He just had such an attitude of service and of, you know, even though you have to feel your feelings, that you should, you know, live to inspire others, to always work on yourself, always be curious. That was his big thing. Like he's very curious. He said the doctor that helped him with his pancreatic cancer was an internal medicine doctor, and he was just curious. Like, what about this? This could help. Have you ever, seen this study? And that was one of his biggest tips to people: stay curious and look for a
Mhm.
team of people that are curious and don't just go with standard of care and that's it. So yeah, he just really, I mean, he went through it all. And to hear how optimistic he is about life and how he's moving forward, even though it's difficult. And I mean, he got teary-eyed of course, on the show. I mean, it just really, I mean, there's so many, but that really affected me. Yeah.
And then what was one of the biggest lessons that you learned from the practitioners that you've interviewed that you might not have known before?
Ah, I'm, really, I'm thinking, when you say this, I'm thinking of Dr. Bruce Lipton, who wrote The Biology of Belief. I don't know if you know of him, But I remember when he came on, I was just so excited to interview him because I, I read his book and I listened to his talks and all that. And basically, what stuck with me is he said, "You you're not going to be healthy. People are not going to be healthy if they don't have harmony in their life." And it's such a simple thing, but it made so much sense to me. Like, are you doing those things that bring you joy? Are you in a toxic relationship? Are you dealing with all those emotions from your childhood? And, I don't know, when you think of harmony, it just makes so much sense. You're just at this state of balance and wholeness. And it just really resonated with me.
Well, and from your story, it really sounds like even though weren't conscious of it, that you realized, hey, I need to do something about the way I'm living because this is not serving me anymore. That you were actually working to bring yourself into that harmony that you didn't even have. So even though it's not conscious, maybe we all are trying to get to that state anyway.
Yes. Very true. Very true.
Very, very
And,
cool.
he talks a lot about your subconscious beliefs and that, when we're in the womb, even, I mean, 0 to 7, we're just downloading all this information from our surroundings, our parents. And so we come with all this subconscious stuff that holds us back.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, trauma that we have that we don't even necessarily remember experiencing because we were so young, or even maybe a trauma that our mother faced when she was pregnant with us, that all of a sudden it's like, where the heck did this come from? This isn't mine. And well, maybe it is, and we just never consciously experienced it to be able to work through it. It's
Oh,
the brain and the mind are just absolutely fascinating. I love
it's
studying that
so
stuff.
true. Oh, I agree. And one of the things you're reminding me, because I asked him, how do you get rid of these subconscious beliefs? How do you rewire your brain? And he talked about Psych K. And so I wanted to mention that to the listeners to look that up, Psych K. He said it helped him a lot and it rewires your brain to get rid of these things that hold you back in life.
I think I actually have a book on that somewhere because I remember that when I was in chiropractic school, it was kind of coming into effect back in the mid to late 90s. And I think upstairs in my library, I have a book on it somewhere because you said that and it sparked, "Hey, I remember hearing about that once upon a time. And I think I even read a book about it and then
Oh,
promptly forgot."
wow, that's great. Yeah, because I
I'm
never
gonna
heard
have
of
to
it
look that
before
up.
that.
Very cool. And I remember Dr. Lipton. I've heard a lot of things about him, and I've probably even read some of his stuff because he's been around for a long time,
He
I think.
has. He's a cell
Yeah.
biologist. Yeah.
Yes. And I think I studied some of his stuff when I was in chiropractic school. So a lot of that is I kind of put my life into before baby and after baby. And as new baby facts come in, some of the pre-baby stuff just goes out of the brain. It's only so big.
Right.
Same with like pre-cancer and post-cancer, the some of that stuff just is gone after time. I think we all have those delineations of some sort in our lives.
Oh, yes.
My husband jokes he was he still is a huge James Bond fan. And he talks about like, okay, baby fact in after our daughter was born, baby fact in, James Bond fact out. Like there's only so much room in the brain, and I need the baby facts more than who was the Bond girl in the specific movie.
Oh, too cute.
Apologize to all the James Bond fans who remember everything, but we can't always remember everything.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Hayley, where can people find you? If people want more information, if they want to find out more about what you do or just kind of reach out to you, what is the best way for people to get a hold of you?
They can go to revivewellness.com.
Okay.
And I have a free download, 7 top tips to keep cancer away and feel confident in your body again. So that's a great,
Ooh,
great start. Yes.
that's fantastic. I'm going to
And
go
I'm on
check that
social
out
media,
myself.
Instagram, all that, Facebook. It's my Instagram's Hayley Dubin, just my name.
Okay. All right. And we will post all of that in the show notes so people can just click on. They don't have to remember anything.
That's great.
All of us that have chemo brains, sometimes it's hard to remember those things. And
Right.
by the time you get to the end of the episode, it's like, what was that information again?
So true.
All right, Hayley. So I ask all of my guests this question at the end of the episode. And if you were to come across someone who was just diagnosed with cancer or is in the midst of overwhelm about a new diagnosis, what is one piece of advice that you would give to them to help them kind of get through those initial stages of overwhelm?
Mm, it's a great question because I know it is so overwhelming. First, just take a deep breath and know that you don't have to make a decision right away. Doctors try, I mean, I'm not saying that, doctors are bad or anything like that, but there's a scare factor and you have to do this now and get everything removed and, do the chemo, do the radiation. But usually cancer is slow growing. I'm not saying it always is, but it took a long time for you to get cancer. So take your time and try to find a team that can help you. So interview people. Like if you're not comfortable with your oncologist, go to someone else. You want to feel like they have your back, that they're there to support you, that they're there to answer your questions. So I think that's the best advice I can give.
And now, if you were to go back 28 years ago with that advice, would you have done anything differently than you did? I mean, because you didn't even know you had cancer until you were done with surgery. So,
Right. I mean, it's so silent, ovarian cancer, and now I'm thinking about it. I mean, I did have heartburn and I was probably bloated and all that kind of stuff. But
that
back
could
then I
just
was
come
trying to
from
get
a bad
pregnant. So
meal.
it was just, yeah, so I wouldn't even have known. But this is what is interesting about that question. Because, like I said before, with this type of cancer called germ cell, this certain protocol there's a really good cure rate with this protocol. So in that instance, and we did talk to my husband's best friend who's an OBGYN, and he said, absolutely, this is the way to go. Um, so in my instance, I probably wouldn't do anything different. But in the majority of cases that I talk to, I I would slow down. I would interview different doctors. I would, make sure that like I had a healthcare team around me, that maybe I had someone that can help me with stress management, um, someone who can do high dose vitamin C if it's necessary. And not everyone, that's not right for everyone. I'm just saying to look into things that you can do to help you during chemotherapy, to help with some of these side effects. So that's what I would say.
Perfect. I know I look back at it now and I feel like I made the right decisions for me, and I made some decisions that went against what my team recommended, but I still felt comfortable with my team and they in the end honored my decision. So I feel like I made the best choices for me, and I did get a second opinion before I went in stuff. And yeah, I don't know if I would have done anything differently, but sometimes it's interesting to go back and look, and like knowing what you know now, would that have changed anything that you have done in the past? And actually,
Yeah.
you're the first person that I asked that question to. It just kind of came up in my mind. I was like, huh, let's just add
Oh,
another question onto that.
and I was just going to ask you what other people have said. So that's interesting that I was the
Yep.
first.
And it just, that's why I love just having conversations instead of a set group of questions to ask. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I mean, for me, things just will pop into my head for no reason and go, ooh, that's an
Right.
interesting thought. Let's share that one.
I love that. Yeah.
So I
The
think I'm
more
going to add
organic,
that
the
to my
better.
repertoire now. I like that.
Right.
And not that, I mean, you have the butterfly effect. And I generally say, if you go back and change one thing, you could be potentially unraveling something that would change everything in your life. And I, in general, don't like to think about going back and changing anything that's happened in my past, bad or good, but it's still interesting to think about it sometimes.
You're right. And I do. I think everything happens the way it should, and everything happens for a reason. And even though we wouldn't ask for these difficult things that happen in our lives, they redirect us. And, it's the way we grow and learn and help others. So it's supposed to happen that way.
People don't generally grow a whole lot when things are good.
Right?
Yeah. It
Very
takes
true.
that adversity to really bring about the breakthroughs and the growth. So as much as we don't want them, they are, I think, a necessary part of life.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Haley, thank you so much for your time today. This has been such a great conversation. And again, it's Revive Wellness if you want to work with Haley or just chat with her and get more information about everything she does. And I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Melissa.
Of course, have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye bye.